I'm pretty devastated for you, to be honest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
think
mean, all that fucking hard work.
yeah, I think I'm probably the least sad from what
Oh,
I
really?
understand out of all the people. Yeah, I saw obviously after they announced the disqualification, a bunch of people in their comments just like kind of were getting really upset. And the funnier thing is they were trying to give me more time, right?
Hmm.
They were and the way the because like so it's like a deadline date, right? Like by this day is the last day, and that's normally because they have to travel to everybody, right?
Yeah.
And since there's six of us and we're all over the country and one person's in Canada, that's the date. So like they have to film it that day. So if your bike isn't running, like they can't do
Yeah.
anything about it. They can't, otherwise it moves everybody. But on mine, the guy that was after me was right above me in like above Vancouver. And so they were flying out of Seattle, so they were coming back through
Right.
like the next day. So they're like, we could film you technically the next day, like the day after. And I was like, honestly, I don't want to do it that way. Like I didn't finish when I was supposed to. I don't find that fair to the people that are still in the contest, right? Like they all had to do it on time.
Yeah.
And I'm also one of the last people. I got 10 more days than the first guy.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So it and then and realistically, I probably the night before could have stayed up late enough to finish it, but I think I'm actually happy that I got disqualified
Yeah.
because when you when you're building these for these contests, you kind of lose, at least for me, like I started losing why I was building bikes in the first place. Because then I'm like, I'm building it to win a contest, not
Yes.
building it
Yeah.
because I love the build, right? And it's not just me that after talking with a few people afterwards, they all kind of on the same thing. They're like, a lot of people either stepped out of contests because they like I lost the love for it because now you're just trying to
Yeah.
be like, who's gonna think my bike's cool? Is this guy gonna? I gotta put these bars because these people are gonna like it. And then you're like, how am I building? Am I building a bike for other people or I'm building for myself? So
Yeah, man.
I'm actually happy because then it's like, no, I built a bike with a motor that is very undesirable.
What was the
So
choice there? How did that come about?
I'm being around. I haven't been in the industry very long, right? Like I'm an amateur builder, right? I'm a barber by trade. So I cut hair for a living and I build bikes for fun because, it's when you get one, you don't want to just leave it the same.
Yeah,
You
of
want to be
course.
like, oh, I got to get these bars because I'm like this, or I got to get the foot peg. You know how you start it. Very simple, like switch grips, and then it's like, oh man, if I could only weld, I could build this, or I could
Yeah.
only mill something and do, and then and then before you know it, your whole life is motorcycles, right?
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
So this motor, after being around shows for so long, I was like, something I haven't seen is like a 45 chopper.
Mhm.
So like they're very small motors, so it's not like it doesn't get to be a dick measuring contest with how big your motor is because it's like
Yeah.
this is the smallest motor. And then not only that, this specific 45 was the very first year Harley produced a 45-inch flathead. So it's like 14.3 horsepower,
Shit.
like perfect. Like if the motor is
Yeah.
stock, everything's perfect. It's 14.3
Yeah.
and like a little bit less than 750 cc. So it's like it's not fast, it's not big, but they're tractors, right? They were
Yeah.
designed for hill climbing.
Right.
So once it gets going, like it'll just go literally until it blows up probably, and even
Yeah.
then it probably will still go. So
Shit.
I was looking for a 45-inch motor after because like when I applied for the Biltwell thing, I didn't have a frame, didn't have a motor, just had a
Mhm.
concept. Sent a message, I was like, this is my concept. And they accepted it. So then I had to like scramble to find parts.
Was it hard to find that
And
motor?
the motor was on accident.
Right.
So
Cool.
I knew of a 45 motor a little bit later, sometime in the 50s or 60, fully rebuilt, redone, like perfect. It would have been a very easy thing to get. Um, there's a local stunt group here called the Seattle Cossacks. They're older guy, or not, they're not all old, but they're older gentlemen, and they do like stunts on like knuckleheads and old
Sick.
flatheads, and they look kind of like Shriners, You're
Yeah,
familiar
okay,
with
yeah.
those?
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of it.
So
Yeah,
they
yeah.
would, so they're not doing like flips or anything. They're doing like
The
stack
pyramids.
people.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
super
We've got a
cool,
similar thing
right?
here. Yeah,
Oh, okay, cool.
yeah.
And so I knew of one there, so I went to him and was talking to him. And then in the background, when I get there, I see this like just beat down motor. And I was like, what is that? Like, I've never seen this. And he's like, oh, it's 1929 D motor. It's like the first year of the flathead. And I was like, yeah, do you like, is it complete? And he's like, it looks complete. Because at the time I'm familiar with searching for parts because that's
Yeah.
once you get into old bikes, you have to search for stuff. And I like that. I didn't know getting into this motor the extreme of what it means to find parts for these. So
Yeah.
I was like, all right, you know what? Fuck it, I'll buy it. I was like, do you have a frame that it can fit in? Because my fabrication skills at the time of starting this were pretty new.
Yeah.
Um, I haven't never TIG welded, never milled anything, never did anything like that. So I was like, I can do some stuff. I can do some like MIG welding, some stick welding, nothing crazy. And I was like, does it fit in this frame? And he's like, no. So like the mounts are shorter, the mounts are narrower, more narrow because I got a 1941 WL frame,
Right.
which is a flathead frame.
Yeah.
So I thought it would fit, doesn't fit. So I was like, oh shit, I'll figure it out. And I get the frame, I get this really cool motor, and I was like, I guess we'll just start figuring it out because why the fuck not? But those motors is like a whole nother subculture of people
Yeah, I
that
bet.
like them. Like parts of it I got from dudes that pulled them off old farm equipment because of 1929. That's a Great Depression.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
Um, People were pulling parts to like fix their farm equipment because that's how they needed to make money.
Shit.
So they like parts were coming from everywhere. Like
That's cool,
these
man.
old guys that have these parts are like some of the most trusting people ever. Like you got to call this guy in like North Dakota and he's going to trade some guy some brake parts for your part. And then you're like, oh, cool. And then they'll just mail you the parts.
Yeah,
And then
man.
they're just like, oh, mail me a check back.
Yeah, we've got a guy here, and he's known as like the wizard, you know, and he'll like his business is selling Harley parts. That's it. He's done it for fucking 50, 60 years. And he's not on fucking Facebook, he's not on Instagram, he hasn't got email. You have to call him, give him your address, he will send you the part, and if it fits and it's good, then you send him the check. If not, just send it back. Like, who the fuck is that trusting today in 2023? That's fucking crazy.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because now it's
Yeah.
like send me the money and then maybe I'll send you your stuff back.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. Yeah.
And so sometimes you don't get your parts back.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, that's happened. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah. But anyway, sorry, carry on. Yeah, it's cool.
Oh no,
I,
that's
I
it.
I
And
love
like,
that. I wish it was like that still. You know what I mean? It's cool.
well, and there's been a lot of in this particular build, there's been a lot of like things where I was like, fuck this industry as a whole. Like where I was like, I don't think I want to deal with this anymore. And then there's parts of it like these old guys, and there was one night particular before my end of the build, like getting it started, where I was like, oh, this is why I like bikes. Like this is why I
Yeah.
got into this community because it did remind me of like barbering because barbering was like for a while it was like a tight knit trade where
Yeah.
all the barbers know each other and they wanted to like share information and like all got excited about this and I like that and
Yeah.
motorcycles are the same thing. It's like a community where people are like excited, like especially this motor. The they aren't motors that people build choppers out of.
Yeah.
And so like these old guys that restore these Ds and DLs and Vs and Rs, like the early flatheads were like so excited
Yeah.
about me doing this, which I thought they were gonna go the opposite. Like, fuck
Yeah.
this young kid coming in
Yeah.
here chopping apart
Yeah.
this
Yeah. Of
stuff we've
course.
been like some people like I've looked for parts for those motors for 30 years and never found all these parts
So is it
because
it's
it just
expensive then?
expensive, yeah, and I I'm a huge fan of using original
Yeah.
Harley parts and not just trying to find repop stuff.
Mhm.
And they don't make repop stuff for this because
Who? Yeah.
I
Why? Yeah.
because for one kid that's going to build a chopper, like who
Yeah,
gives a shit,
totally.
right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
you want
yeah.
to, but you want to buy those chopper parts for like shovel heads and knuckle heads and
Hmm.
stuff people build bikes out of, not
Yeah.
some off chance that maybe
Yeah.
one of, because I don't know how many motors were made, and it's kind of hard to find all that information. There's only like one or two books written about these bikes, and that's
Yeah.
from a guy named Johnny Sells, which coincidentally we have the same last name.
That's cool.
And yeah, I guess he's some guy sent him pictures of my bike, and he was like really excited about it.
Yeah.
So it's I like the searching for them.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's like a passion of mine that comes with this, you know. It's just that like picking, you know, like digging through and finding them fucking awesome deals where it's not just someone who's bought it and they're selling it for like 4 times the fucking price, you know.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so part of it sometimes is finding those parts that people sell for too much, and
Yeah, yeah.
everyone needs to make money, and I understand
Yeah.
that people do it for a living, and
Yeah.
there are parts that I understand, like doing this particular thing with like there's like certain parts on the bike, like the generators,
Mhm.
which I'm still waiting on mine, which I think I'm getting it back soon. That if you find one, they're just expensive because right now, like I'm not joking you, there's so the generator for this bike they only made for 1 year or 2 years only on these
Yeah.
bikes, and I've only heard of four across the
Fuck.
country, and that's including Canada. One of those guys had two of them, and then the one I have, and then I think maybe one other one, and they were all broken except for whatever mine, which is was
That's
broken too.
crazy.
And so they're just expensive. So like
Yeah.
he probably bought it for I don't know, $100, $200,
Yeah.
because it looking at them you wouldn't know what it was, but to someone that would know, it's worth like 2 grand. Like they go for
Fuck.
$2,000, right?
Yeah.
I luckily bought a motor that had one on there,
Okay.
and I had to mail it to this guy in Pennsylvania,
Hmm.
and he drove it to Wisconsin to get it worked on.
That's
And
crazy.
I'm just waiting for it to get it back. And that's just kind of the story with all the parts.
That's
It's just
awesome.
like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah. And the same thing is like, I just had to trust the fact that he's going to
Yeah,
send it
yeah.
back.
There's
So
just
send
this
this.
2 grand part just floating about.
And not only that, it's like, even if I could get 2 grand, it's like, can I find another one?
Yeah, man. Yeah, shit.
That's like the other dark part is like, yeah, you might have the money, but can you find one? And then if you can find one, does the guy want to sell it?
Yeah, of course.
Because that was the other part was like, oh, cool, you can find it, but the guy doesn't want to sell it because he knows there's not very
Yeah.
many of them.
Yeah, that's
So
crazy. Shit.
I like that part of the search and the hunt and the community behind it too,
Yeah, man.
because that's my favorite part was of this whole build thing was there was maybe 2 or 3 nights before like they were gonna show up at my house. I was like, I knew for a fact I was like, yeah, I'm not gonna get it. I already
And is
know.
it because of this part that you're waiting for?
No, it would. So this bike's been like one thing after another
Yep.
because it's a learning thing. Like I chose to pick a bike that I knew nothing about, right? Like I've
Yep.
built a couple shovel head, I've built a couple pan heads. I'm not an expert, but I can manage.
Hmm.
Like I'm familiar with the frames, I'm familiar with the brake systems and the transmissions and the operating of the motor. So like I could do a lot myself. But this thing, it was like every time I was like, oh, I think I'm starting to get it, then I was like, the fuck is this thing? So it's first started with the oiling system,
Yep.
right? So it is a total loss oiling system, meaning it will not circulate oil through it. You hand pump the oil into the motor before you
Hmm.
start, and then
Shit.
as you run, it will burn the oil, and it will also has a breather that will breathe on to the chain. So then you pump a little bit more in at a time, right?
Fuck.
And like that's how the motor works. I put that on this bike and obviously got like a plethora of people being like, why the fuck would you run this stupid bike? I'm like, I didn't invent this. It's like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah.
this is the history of the motor. Like that's why I'm using it because I think you need to pay attention to the history of
Totally.
the motors to
And
understand how they all work.
you're building a
So
show bike, not really build the most practical bike on the fucking planet, really, you know, unless you want to, but you
no,
know.
Yeah, and that's the other thing too is you got to go what gets people excited, right? Because
Yeah,
it is a
totally.
social media thing, and
Yeah,
if it's like you got to get people being like, "Oh, that's weird." Like people got to talk about it,
exactly.
right? So
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably part of why I picked this motor, anyways, because I was like familiar with past winners, and
Hmm.
like obviously every year it gets a little bit weirder or stranger in order
Yeah.
to get people excited, but because I'm a fan of history, I was like, I need to. I want to pay honor to the history while creating something new
Yeah.
without destroying it.
Hmm.
And yeah, so learning the oil system was hard. And then the fucking transmissions on those things, I picked a year of transmission just because it was what I could find that was very difficult. I probably rebuilt it 4 times myself,
Fuck.
like fold together, fall apart, fold together, and then had to bring it to my friend. And I was like, dude, I don't understand this.
Hmm.
And then he works with a guy that builds bikes. His name's Eric. He has a really cool early chopper too, and the guy that he works with builds like 45s and early stuff. And then when he saw the transmission, he was like, "I'm not touching it,"
Yeah.
because he knows the year, and he's like, "Fuck those years," and I didn't know that. And Eric was like, "Yo, if I had to do this for a living, like I'd probably quit."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like this is the worst thing I've ever worked on. And so like that was difficult, and then just like everything like that, just like where you're like, traditionally this is how it should work, and then you do it and you're like, the fight doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I just kept running into things like that because I was also trying to learn how to TIG weld, and so like TIGging was like so bad.
So, I mean,
That shit is so hard.
when did you start? Like, how long have you been doing this then?
On this bike, 6 months, six, seven
No,
months.
no, like with bikes in general. Like,
I think I bought my first Harley maybe 5 or 6 years ago.
oh, okay,
About
cool.
like a about like a 2007 or 2003 Sportster,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
It's like the first thing, and I got hit on it by a car the second day I had it, right? So I
Oh
bought
shit.
it, trailered it home, rode it to work, got hit by a car the next day.
Fuck.
And I was like, this sucks. Because it's like day two, I already got fucking smoked.
Yeah.
Um, and then
Was it
I
totaled?
learned how to, not fix it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, like, front end fucked up, gas tank, stuff like that. And I was working on it in a parking lot in my apartment
Right.
and within a sling fixing my bike, and that's how I learned how to fix them.
Shit. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, so like not very long at
No.
all, really.
Mhm.
In an industry standard. No, I didn't. I grew up like working on like smaller bikes. I had like pocket bikes and
Yeah.
like those little tiny
Yeah.
miniature crotch rockets, right?
Yeah.
I think I got one of those when I was like 14, just a fucking nuisance to the neighborhood,
Yeah.
just mobbing that thing around on a straight pipe. Um, I gotta find a picture of me on that thing. It's
Yeah, man.
probably
Send it
hilarious.
over.
Yeah, tiny little 50 cc like
Yeah, I had one of
straight
them as well.
pipes. Fucking, yeah, they're
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean this is basically a big ass pocket bike that I'm building now. It's funny because it is a I'm large, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
6'5" and like 245 pounds. So I'm like
Right.
pretty big. And this is a full size motorcycle, but it looks, I think, a little bit abnormally small next to me.
I mean, especially when you fucking pick it up.
Yeah, it's not too bad actually. I was
What?
surprised.
How much do you
I
think it
could
weighs?
not. I think it's close to 300,
Right. Yeah.
315.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not
So
light, but it's
that's
not
a
overly
good
heavy.
deadlift.
Yeah, yeah. I can do a little bit more than that.
Yeah.
But like I mean I can't pick a shovel head up
Yeah. Of course.
uh or any of those other. I can like, pick the back wheel and like scoot the bike, but no
Yeah.
fucking way I'm gonna fully pick it up.
Yeah.
Those are like 600 pounds, five, six
Yeah.
hundred
Yeah.
pounds, even
Yeah.
as a chopper. But so this is light, but it is a full size frame. Like the dimensions of it are very close to a big twin frame.
Right. Okay.
It's so skinny and so it looks
Yeah.
small.
So yeah, I was gonna ask what was the inspiration for the build, but it wasn't. It was all fucking by chance, really, wasn't it? It wasn't really. Did you have like a
Yeah,
picture in your head before, or did you just go for it?
no, it kind of, so I was building in a shipping container
Mhm.
originally. That's what I had to build out here. So you tend to get a little lost in there. There's no windows or
Yeah.
ventilation really, and you just kind of sit in this really dark tunnel because I only had lights that I could put in there. So this, I don't know, I kind of bought the frame and then had like I like typically I like really narrow bikes, like T-bars,
Yeah.
like tall, like kind of monster truck stance, like no rake, just tall,
Yeah.
fucking tough lane splitters. Those were like what I really like. For chopper, that was my original idea, but had an incident with my front end, original front end that was supposed to be on there. And so then I like tried like a bunch of different front ends to where I ended up with a curved rigid
Yeah.
and which I really like now. And then I, I had these like narrow, they were T-bars and then I cut them and like molded them and shaped them a little differently. And then I put them on there and I was sitting outside looking at the bike. I was like, these aren't what this bike needs.
Yeah.
It needs fucking these apes. I don't know why. I just looked at it and I was
Yeah,
like,
man.
that's exactly what it needs. And I think it just sort of it changed. It kept changing every
Yeah.
time, which I think it's probably best to start a project like that with an idea and then try to just stick to it.
Yeah.
But I didn't have a skill. Sometimes you don't have the skill. You have to kind of like pivot.
Yeah, totally.
You're like,
Yeah.
fuck, I guess like if I could, I would do this, but I don't have that skill set, so I need to do something in my wheelhouse, which is this.
Yeah.
And then it changed, and then you try something like my exhaust broke. So
Fuck.
I guess like I made this one piece 2-in-1 super sick upsweep, and it
Yeah.
fucking put it on there after everything was together, and like it didn't fit all of a sudden. And I was like, what the fuck happened? Like it like didn't fit in the motor anymore. And I was like, oh shit. And I was like, okay, I gotta bend it. Try to bend it and snapped it in half.
Yeah.
And then I like tried to weld it back together and was just blowing holes in it. So I was like, fuck. So then I had to like make a new exhaust last minute out
Wow.
of pieces.
So I mean, when you if you don't have like that much experience, I mean, where do you start when you come to fucking building some random custom exhaust? And
Why
if you're
did I
doing
just do
it,
that?
no, like where do you start with that? If you're doing it in a shipping container, like I'm guessing you don't have the luxury of like a full fucking shop of all the tube benders and everything that you need.
No, you gotta like it gets pretty scrappy. I'm like a very resourceful person.
Yeah,
Um, so you kind of like, I mean, I look at it more like kind of like how choppers, I guess, originated. Just
yeah,
some dudes that like might have been tradesmen, might have not been, just sitting in their garage, just like fuck this bike, or they like start to work on their bike and then they're like, take it apart and then they're like, fuck, I don't remember how this shit goes back on. So like, I can put a headlight and a tail light, and like
yeah,
this
yeah,
is all I got. So it's kind of like how I felt about it. Like you just start doing the things you know how, and
yeah,
you do learn stuff along the way, but it's more of like a kind of organic process to get there. And because they don't make parts for this stupid bike, you have to fucking every fucking thing. They don't make foot pegs for it. They don't make foot peg mounts. Like
of course.
there's not like nothing. It's like no brakes. Luckily, I did have the drum. The
Yeah,
drum brake is one thing that they actually made for this bike.
yeah,
So I
shit.
had a brake at least.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, everything else is like I have to make every single part for this bike.
Fuck.
But I liked it.
So do you have like a mentor, or do you have anybody that kind of helps you out with that shit?
Um, there was people I reached out to. Um, I don't have a big group of people here that I do work on bikes with up until the end of it. Um, and obviously with social media, people with or without you asking are going to give you advice.
Yeah,
Whether you're like, I understand this, they're like, the fuck you do.
yeah.
And so
And
unsolicited or not, you're going to get
you're like,
advice.
no, I've got the proof. Look, I really do understand it. They're like, no.
Nope, you're wrong.
Yeah,
And I get a
totally.
lot of that, obviously,
Yeah.
because of the motor. So there's people that have been around it for a very long time that are like, well, this and this and this, or you're saying this wrong. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm just trying to learn here, man. I
Yeah,
didn't
yeah,
claim to know everything.
yeah.
So there are people that will reach out and like, for specifically the welding too, there was a lot of,
Mhm.
but even for me, like, I'm like, someone saying this shit to me, like, I don't really, like, it makes sense, but I think I need to like do it
Yeah.
because I don't understand what you're saying with these temperatures and the gas and the
Yeah.
fluctuation. I'm like,
So
I don't know what you're saying.
that's what I mean. Like, so if you're not like a trained fabricator, like, do you just think like, right, I want it to look this way. I have the raw materials. I have a welder. I have a hacksaw or a grinder, and then do you just start and just see where it goes? Or
Yeah,
that's cool as fuck, isn't it?
I it is, and I it definitely spent more hours throwing stuff away than I did. Like what's
Right.
on the bike, it seems like everyone's like, well, there's not very much on the bike. I'm like, the pile of stuff that's not on the bike that I had to try to do. Like I think I made 14 different headlight brackets.
Fuck. Okay. Cool.
So like I spend like one of them I spent literal 7 hours. Like
Shit.
shaping, grinding, welding, shaping, changing, and then I put it on the bike. I'm like, fuck this, and just chuck it at the wall. And I was like, this is so stupid. And like that was for like almost like months on end where you're just in this and you're in that container. So it's, I usually wear not headphones, but I wear just earmuffs.
Yep.
And so there's no noise, and I'm just like way too hyper focused, and you're just
Yeah. Yeah.
lost in there. And then you're like, I think I've been in, it's like a casino.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
got
That's
like no
cool.
clock, no windows. You're like, I could be in here. Who knows how
Shit.
long?
Yeah. That's cool.
And then, but up till the end, I there's a guy named Tom Jones out here, um, and the Eric guy who helped me get it started. And those guys were right at the end were kind of reminders where I was like, oh, this is why I like this. I like bikes because there are people like this and
Yeah, man.
that want to help you, that want to see you win. And I was like, yeah, I needed that at the end there.
You said that there were times in this build where you thought you kind of hated this thing because I've been there. I've been there. So like, you know,
Well, I mean, with building for any contest, like you're gonna get whether you want it to or not, you're gonna have people that love it,
yeah,
obviously, and they're very supportive the whole entire way, and you're stoked on it. But you not most of those people that love your bike probably aren't gonna say anything to you,
yeah,
right? It's kind of like reviews online for businesses, right? Like
yeah,
most people that are common to leave a review are the people that are most upset,
yeah, yeah, yeah. Of
right? That hate
course.
it the most. Not the people that love it, are like, no, look, I'll come back, I'll tell my friends.
Yeah,
And it's like, okay, why don't you just say that online?
yeah,
And it
yeah. Of
was like
course.
building it, it's like all you, and it's not just me, it's everyone in this contest, right? It's all 20 of
Yeah,
us. It's like,
yeah. I've seen it all.
it's just, yeah, you see, I mean, you can go see it on the comments, and
Yep.
obviously people tend to message stuff like that, but they're like, it's like everything. Like I changed my handlebars because it didn't look right, and then I just get messages being like, "This looks stupid. Your bike's stupid. Fuck your bike." And then you're like, "What the fuck?" And I growing up in a bar, like being in a barbershop for so long, like I'm used to shit talking. Like
Yeah,
that's what we do, right? We put each
yeah,
other
yeah.
down every day, and that's a guy thing too, right? We just make fun of each other until
I
one of
feel
us
like
dies.
when it's in person, it's good. It's funny. It's almost healthy. But when it's messages, I don't know. There's something weird about it to me. Maybe I'm too fucking sensitive. But
No, yeah, well, yeah, I think I tend to when it's like a message, I tend to like sit on it longer. Where
yeah,
I'm like, I'm like in the garage, and then like I'm putting the handlebars on, and some, user 42930 is just like, you're a
yeah,
fucking
totally.
joke. And then you're just like, and then you sit there and you're like, am I a joke?
Yeah,
Are you
yeah.
stupid?
And then you
Am I
get
gonna
like
lose
imposter
because
syndrome.
yeah. And then
Totally.
well with the contest, you're like, am I gonna lose because of these handlebars right now? Like, is everyone gonna think, does everyone think my bike's stupid?
Yeah.
Is this, or am I a pussy because my bike's pink? Or is it white seats the stupidest thing ever? It's just shit like that, right?
That paint job, and I'm not just saying it because you're on. I like that paint job is one of my favorite paint jobs on any bike ever. I
Mine
fucking
too.
yeah, I fucking love that thing.
Nathan fucking killed it. I told him I wanted peach pebble, like a pebble base,
Mhm.
which is like that kind of like looks like spackle on a wall. I was like, I want that texture, and then I'll let you do whatever you want. That was all my only direction.
Yeah, cool.
And which I think in this scenario, and a lot of them, like you got to put some trust in the painter.
Yeah,
Like they're not painters are not cheap, right? And just like a tattoo artist, like
totally.
like if you're gonna go to someone and like for him, it's like this can and paint makes or breaks a bike. Like
Yep.
especially on a build, it's like if someone gave me a shitty paint job, my bike would be worth half shit,
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I trust Nathan a lot. Um, so I was like, I want a pebble base, and that's all I'm gonna say. And here's the
Cool.
parts. Here's the money. Let me know what you get. And he didn't send me any pictures until he like painted it. And when I saw his face, when he saw my paint,
Yeah.
that's when I was like, he was like, yeah, this is probably, this is, I don't want to say it was like my favorite paint I've ever done.
Yeah, yeah,
And when you
yeah.
see your painter like fucking hyped on his own work, you're like, yeah, it's good.
Yeah, totally. Yeah,
And
like
it's
you said,
better
it's the
in
same with
person.
tattoos and stuff like that. It's just yeah. Yeah, it's cool.
And I obviously have some, I have a lot of shitty tattoos, but
Yeah.
that's,
Same.
yeah, that's part of the story, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's like you got to put some trust in them. I know people tend to like want to micromanage.
I think
People
when
love
it comes
micromanaging.
to art, you can't micromanage. Like you said, you can give someone a direction. Like all of my clients, when they come to me, they just give me the idea. I tell them before they come, like, look, bring ideas, and then you just got to trust me. If you like my work, then you got to trust me and just let me do my thing with your idea. And
Yeah,
that's the way it works. Best.
yeah, and you go to people for a reason, right? Because
Yeah.
and especially like back to the tattoos is like you obviously pick this person because you either saw their work and you like what it is, then
Yeah.
let them do their work,
Mhm.
right? Like you don't need to be the whole step away. Be like, what if you did this and this, and then now, just like the internet comments, it's like now you're if artist is like, am I a hack? Is my fucking
Yeah.
are my
Yeah.
lines whack?
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, that's why I was yeah being disqualified is pretty rough in this contest, and I see it break a lot of the builders in the past, like where people don't finish the builds and then they just end up selling the project or stop building bikes altogether. But the moment I lost, I ended up went and bought another motorcycle and started working on that.
So
So
what are you gonna do with that one?
the one I just got.
No, the one that you built for the competition.
Oh, I'm gonna ride it and I'm gonna show it obviously because
Yeah,
people are
cool.
excited and they're happy to see it, and I am gonna bring it down there to Born Free and People's Champ still, and I'm definitely gonna sell it or do a giveaway kind of situation once it's
Yeah,
after
cool.
the show because they are not cheap to build,
Yeah, man.
and I like building bikes and I would like to keep building them, and I can't keep them if I want to.
Yeah.
And I mean, fuck, this is probably the only time anyone will ever get their hands on a D motor, from my understanding from people.
Yeah,
I had a lot
totally.
of people messaging me being like, "Where do I get that? How do I find it?" And I'm like, I wish I could tell you. Like, I don't.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll give you like 11 dudes' numbers that I've received since
Yeah.
starting this, and you can give them a call, and you can. I fucking applaud you if you can put it back together
Shit.
because it is. If I didn't find a complete motor, I think honestly I would have probably spent my life trying to find all the parts for it.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
It's
fucking
crazy.
crazy. That is crazy.
Yeah, I'm
Shit.
not joking. There's literally guys that were like 30 years and are not done putting one together. They're like
That's
just trying to find parts.
I bet even the ones that were happy for you were slightly unhappy for you.
Yeah, just I know I just show up and get a whole motor. Just
Yeah. It's like it
and
was
they're not
yeah.
terribly expensive. Like I mean,
No.
I paid like the motor just for the motor as it
Yep.
sat. Like obviously it needed a whole rebuild. Blah blah blah. It was like
Right.
$4,500.
Yeah.
So in obviously motor world, like Harley Motor World, like that's not that
Yeah,
bad.
that's not that bad. No, no, of course. Yeah.
That's like more than a shovel head, less
Yeah.
than a pan head, just right in
Yeah.
the middle there.
Yeah.
But that's, like I'm definitely a lot more into it after
Yeah.
getting it rebuilt and finding out that some of the parts, like you can't source stuff. They don't even make like if you need valves, you have to get custom made valves,
Fuck.
right? Like or if you need a valve guide, that has to be custom made. They don't just make valves.
Shit.
So there's a lot of stuff like that because I mean the heads on that are like stamped, November 23rd, or November 13th, 23, so
That's
1923.
cool as fuck.
Yeah, and
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know if you heard the video of it running, but
Yeah.
it's loud. It's
Yeah.
actually surprisingly loud.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's cool.
What made you want to do the people's champ? Like what did you just is that another thing you just thought, yeah, fuck it, I'll go for it? Or
Yeah.
yeah, cool.
Yeah, I'm just kind of that way. I mean, I built a couple
That's how I
bikes
run my
and
life. It's
yeah, just
yeah.
like, yeah, give it a shot.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Let's go, well, that was a huge mistake, or fuck, well, that was awesome.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know?
totally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
why not? because like I said, I didn't even have a bike. Because I
Yeah.
know some of the people that enter and have entered, understandably, have either been working on projects or have a project in mind. I was just like, ah, fuck it. Like, I think it'd be cool to be in it and attempt to
Yeah,
do
man.
something I've
Yeah.
never done before and
Yeah, fucking
push
right.
yourself. And I
Totally.
did it, and I was like, that was fucking hard. That shit is actually not easy. Because you
Yeah.
also, the contest, like, is weird. Like, you need to, like, not try to just run through the project like you normally. You have to, like, try to, because you need to keep people engaged, right? Because it is
Yeah,
a
of course.
it's an internet thing that
Yeah.
you need to have people excited and keep people enticed, like a TV show would be. Like,
Yeah,
if they give
totally.
you all the fucking information the first two episodes, like, why the fuck do you need to stay to the end to watch?
Yeah, of course.
Right? So you're like
Yeah.
trying to space it out, but also keep up pace so you don't get left behind. And
Yeah.
like that's hard to like manage because then you're like, it's not just the bike building, it's also a social media contest, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and that's hard too. Like my audience that I had on Instagram, they're all hairdressers and they're all
Right. Okay.
barbers and they're my clients. Like I used to be a platform artist for hair, so I would travel around
Okay, cool.
and teach on stage at like
Yeah.
these conventions and stuff. That's how I did that. So like when I started posting motorcycles, it just like a bunch of people being like, "Do you fucking cut hair?" And I
Yeah,
still
yeah,
cut
yeah.
hair all
Yeah.
full time. Like I
All
get
right,
clients
cool.
all the time being like, "Do you quit doing this?" And I'm like, "No, like I still do it full time, right? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
still in my shop like 40 hours or 30 to 40 hours a week, cutting
Yeah.
hair, and then I'm also trying to build bikes." So like that was weird too, because it's just a bunch of hairdressers being like, "What the fuck am I looking
Yeah.
at here?" So
Yeah, of course.
like I just got a message today being like, "Do you still cut hair?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." I was like, "Yeah, I still do." And they're like, "Oh, I just so many bikes."
I struggle with it, to be honest. The social
Yeah,
media thing. I'm not like I'll often like do something cool and be like, ah, that would have been cool for Instagram. But I'm not
yeah.
I you know what I mean, I'm not like living in the Instagram moment. Do you know what I mean? I kinda
Be living in the real moment.
yeah, yeah, totally. I'm like, ah, fuck, that would have been really cool. Where's my fucking phone?
Yeah,
Let's
and
reenact
that's
it.
what's hard. That's what's hard about the contest is like, well, it's a requirement from them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like you can get disqualified if you're not posting,
Fuck. Shit.
right? So you have to post on there. And up till this, like I used to do, like I said, for haircutting,
Yeah,
I was doing posting pretty regularly, and then up till the pandemic, I just kind of fell off
yeah,
because like the whole world stopped. So I was like, I don't really fucking what is it, need to post some bread recipes or
yeah, yeah.
something like everybody else. I was like, so I just stopped posting hair stuff, and I just didn't care. And then I just went once everything opened, I just went to work and just didn't care about that side of
Yeah.
it because I needed the Instagram stuff back then to maintain my like stuff with sponsors and stage work. I had to like post stuff for that. And then once all that stuff ended, I was like, oh, I don't have to anymore.
Yeah, yeah,
So
of
now I can
course.
just go to work and go home. I have a full clientele, so I don't need to
Yeah.
gain anybody. So like I just stopped, and then I got into this contest, and I had like 10, maybe like just right around 10,000 followers when I started
Mhm.
this contest, and I have like since posting bikes on there, it's like I'm like above 15,000 now
Yeah, yeah.
in just like 6 months
Yeah, it's crazy.
posting bikes. Yeah, it's
I
but
I don't know how what you find, but compared to my like on my tattoo page, I've got like 9,000, just under 9,000 followers. This one we just hit 3,000. You know, it's only been
yeah, it's
going
awesome.
properly for like 6 months. Um, but what I find with the bikes is like my smaller following, the bikes, is so much more interactive compared to my tattoo page that's got more followers. You know?
Oh, that's what I noticed too, and I think that's what kind of burnt me out on the hair industry too was it's like I've gotten more support
Yeah,
recently over my projects than I have doing hair, and I've been doing hair for like 11 years, almost 12 years, and I
yeah,
poured like my fucking heart and soul into that industry, like
yeah,
7 days a week, built shops, brought people up, traveled, blah blah blah, like did all the whole fucking thing. I worked
yeah,
hard as fuck.
yeah,
And then it was like 10,000 followers, and like it sucks because when you put your work out there, you like you do want people to recognize it, and you do want the people to like it, right? Because why the
That's
fuck
why
would
we
you
put it
post
out
it
there.
otherwise, right?
Yep. Yep.
The people post up like, I don't care if people like it. And I'm like, let's stop fuck posting it.
Yeah, totally.
If you don't care, then don't put your
Yeah.
work out there,
Yeah.
right? Just shut the fuck up and go to work. But I was like,
Yeah.
no, I need. So I'm like 10,000 followers, and I get like 100 likes or less, and I'm like,
Yeah.
not only does it look like I bought followers, but it's
Yeah,
like I fucking
totally.
I worked my ass off for this fucking haircut photo. I like, I bought this expensive camera, got the studio lighting,
Yeah.
fucking got a model, worked after hours, and like it's like everyone's like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah. Yeah. 49
like,
likes.
and then I get this like shitty cell phone picture on a shipping container of my bike, and it's like 8,000 likes, and I'm like, what
Yeah.
the fuck just
Yeah.
happened? I'm like, this is the
So
shittiest photo, and this, yeah, it's like the support for the motorcycle thing has
I,
like been
I've done that
pretty
exact same
cool.
thing. Have taken yeah, so like I've worked really hard. I've like, I've done a fucking 12-hour portrait for free just to fucking post it, back in the day. And yeah, 25 likes. And then I took a photo of my fucking, it was my, I can't remember which bike it was. I think it was a 1200 Sportster, and it was cream. And I'd brought it in from the rain. It was just in my hallway. It wasn't even a good photo. My fucking house looked like shit. 10,000 likes, fucking 1,000 reshares. You know what I mean? It was just, it went
Yeah,
crazy. And I was like, it looks like it's in a crack den. Like,
yeah,
why?
yeah,
Why?
yeah. I fucking yeah. It's
Yeah.
like, God damn, I work so hard, and like no one gives a shit, and then I just like roll this shit into like a shadow, and people are like, this is fucking the best thing I've ever seen. You're like, why did I even work so hard just to fucking?
Totally.
But like I'm fairly new to the industry, and that's is what it is, I guess. In the I'm on like a yesterday, but I definitely build my bikes, and I think that's another thing too, because you can just pay your way to the finish
Yeah.
line.
Yeah, of
And I
course.
don't,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's not horribly wrong. Obviously, people are like, I can't believe like you didn't build your bike. I'm like, someone needs to support the people that build them, though.
Yeah.
Like, right?
Totally.
Someone needs to buy an expensive bike to the guy that builds it.
Yeah, man.
Like,
Glenn, I had him on the second episode, and he said, because I was saying to him, I was like, I kind of feel like a bit of an imposter, because like where I am right now, I probably couldn't build a bike from the ground up. And, he's like, neither could I. But what we can do is we can support those builders. Or if there's someone casting like a particular part or a fucking primary cover or whatever, pay the fucking money and support them. He said, that's what we're here to do, And it just fucking stuck with me. And I was like, yeah, man.
yeah, someone
Yeah.
needs to support the industry, and like,
Yeah.
there wouldn't be all these people that there are without people buying parts. Like, I don't know almost anyone in this industry that can do every single aspect. It's
Yeah.
like you can fabricate a whole bike, but you can't build motors.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you
Totally.
need a motor builder, right? Like,
Yeah.
no, you can't fabricate a belt drive system, so you need to find someone that can. Like, and there's people that are very good at a lot, like a big, huge plethora, but they can't, and nor shouldn't they. Like, maybe they can't make seats, so they find a seat maker. Or they know they
Yeah. Of
can't
course.
paint, so they have a painter. Like, there are people that don't, have enough money to pay for people, so they have to learn how
Yeah.
to do everything, right? Like, you're
Yeah.
like, shit, I don't have a lot of money to like build or to buy his foot pegs, so I now have to learn how to make my own foot pegs,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? So like, there's all the aspects, but it's like you just gonna fucking hate everybody. Doesn't seem like an awful way to be about it. Like, everyone's at
Totally.
different levels. Not everyone can buy a fucking panhead.
Yeah.
Like, they can afford a Sportster, or maybe they can't afford a Sportster. Maybe they can only afford a Honda. It's like, do you want more people riding, or do you just want to like have a tiny small group of people that are just mean
Yeah.
all the time to each other? I don't know.
These are the conversations that I think are really important for people to hear, For
Yeah.
people, if people are doing that stupid shit, I think it's important that they fucking hear it and they hear, like it's dumb, like you know,
Yeah.
change. And it's also good for the people who are kind of getting like treated that way to know, like, nah, we don't think it's cool. It's fucking it's bullshit. Just keep doing what you're doing. And especially with like you were saying, like you don't this crazy fucking experienced fabricator. You have an idea, you spent fucking all that time making light mounts, stuff like that. So you just go in the garage and you just do it.
Yeah.
There's no fucking fabricating fucking qualifications or anything like that. And I think if more people kind of like hear this and hear like, yeah, man, just get out there and do it. Just try it, you know? Because I've been guilty of it where I've been like, oh, I want to build some, I want to make some pegs. I'm like, I don't know where to start. I'll just buy some. Well, maybe if
Yeah,
I just got out there into my garage, you
yeah,
know what I mean? I'd probably end up with some fucking nice pegs.
yeah.
Yeah.
You just got to go through. I mean, just like I mean, any of the people that make foot pegs for a living or shifter, just like yeah, you don't know how many pieces they went through to get there.
Yeah,
Because like
totally.
obviously being now more like with this contest is like looking at the competitors or people next to me. I'm like, it's hard because like I mean I don't know if you saw some of the people in the six. It's like you got Al Hackle who's
Yeah, man.
used that helicopter motor. That
It's
guy makes me
insane.
feel like he makes me feel like a joke, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm over here like, oh, would I like a white leather seat or white grips? And this guy's like fucking hand making his motor. And I'm like, what the fuck? And I got like a Harbor Freight grinder trying to cut a handlebar. And I'm like, dude, this guy's like real. Or you look at uh Bobby and his like fabrication skill on his red bike, and it's like
Man, that's
his
yeah.
work is so clean, and it's like, dude, I have to set my bike next to him,
Yeah.
right? And like same thing at Born Free is like these are world renowned builders, like
Yeah.
and I'm like, and I have to, and that's where you have to like humble yourself and sit back and go, it's like I'm not I might not be on these guys' level, and how the fuck would I be? It's like I don't do it for a living, and I haven't done it very long, so like this is my this is my entry, like.
Yeah.
Their first bike probably wasn't the best one either, and it's like I have to kind of remind yourself that you're like, your first bike might not be the prettiest, or your first attempt at it probably won't be either, but it's like at least everyone had to start somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. You'll never get to that fucking you'll never get to the point when you're building amazing bikes unless you fucking build that first one. You know,
Yeah,
then you build the fucking second one. You learn a little bit more. You learn a little bit more.
yeah.
But
You
you
meet
you are you
someone and
are
they give you info.
you are being a bit too humble because that bike is insane.
Thank you,
The
man. I
front,
appreciate it.
it is. It is. The front end, before we fucking wrap up, that where'd the idea for that come from? Because it
Um,
looks sick.
I originally had an RL Springer, which would
Yeah.
have been like 1931 to 33, and I still haven't gotten it back yet. It's still out there in the ether um, of the world, and so I went and did like a narrow 33,
Yeah.
right? From Mullins chain drive. I had their front end, and it just looked too modern on my bike
Mm.
because my bike's old. So I was like, oh, I can't run this. And then I bought like these fucking 33 millimeter solid leg front ends, and I put them on the bike, and I was like, dude, they probably weighed like 40 pounds a
Yeah,
piece. And I
but
was like, dude, this is gonna fuck my bike up. So I was like, I gotta go skinnier. And I remember reading this like Denver's Chopper article about the weight that you could put on. Like, 'cause I was like, if I did rigid, like, how skinny could I make the legs?
yeah.
And like for it to be safe. And then there was like this old article from maybe like the 70s that Denver's Chopper put out about like the weight you could put on. Well, they were hollow tubes, is what it was about. Like
Right.
tensile strength, I think is what it's called. And I was like, fuck, dude, I could run pretty skinny ones, and I did mine are solid steel,
Yeah.
so like they're fucking heavy duty, so they are
Yeah.
safe because I am a heavier guy, so I wanted it to support it, not only me but whoever rides it in the future.
Yeah, of course.
And then I put them, I had them like dead straight, and I was like, oh, that's sick, and I welded them, and I was like looking at it, and once I got those on there, I was like, this thing looks like a Schwinn Stingray, like a
Yeah.
like a lowrider bike, and they have bent tubes,
Yeah.
same like that kind of curve. So I was like, I'm gonna make this thing like a fucking bicycle. So
That's
I
cool.
bent them, and I was like, I actually fucking like it.
How did you bend them?
Um, so Harbor Freight actually makes like a bar bender. It's like a hydraulic press.
Okay,
Um,
cool.
we do it by hand, like a hand pump,
Yeah.
and it's literally like two like round rollers, and then like a literally like a curved cast like thing that presses up, and you just like slowly curve it a little bit at a time.
Right.
Getting them to match is pretty bitch because I had to do one at a time, and it's all
Yeah.
by eye, like everything I do. So they're both straight as
That's
fuck.
cool as fuck.
Because I do everything like kind of like more like that, like by eye. Because I think
Yeah.
I like my motorcycles to be more like a fingerprint,
Yeah,
and
man.
kind of like how old choppers were. Like when you see those survivor bikes, and they're like, you'll never see one like that again because this guy was just some fucking, I don't
Yeah.
know, 60s, 70s, so they're probably just tripped out on acid and mushrooms, just like
Yeah, man.
fucking making these crazy molded weird bikes. And I was like, I kind of want it to be like those. It was like Ed Roth, like Rat Fink, like David Mann,
Yeah,
just
man.
choppers. Like, and that's why I went with those tall bars. There's like a old David Mann picture of like, I think it might have been Tiny, like in the center, and they're kind of like fanned out back, and it's like him with his hands like. I was like, that's like when you think of a chopper, like that's what
Yeah,
comes to my
exactly.
mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wanted to pay homage to that while respecting Harley's history as in the industry of choppers.
That's cool as fuck, man. I think that's a really cool way to end it.
Yeah.
How can people find you on social media and stuff? 'Cause, I mean,
I,
your work, your bikes, and your parts.
so I do, so my personal Instagram, which is most of my bikes, is Collin Anthony Hair. Um, and then my parts is Chopper Shit Show. And it's the same as that on TikTok, which I don't keep my TikTok as much up to date. I kind of went in the shadow,
It's
not
hard to
that
do that
deep in
shit,
that
man.
build. Well, it's to do both, like the there and then it's like
Yeah,
without just posting the same thing. I just like
yeah.
but it is on there. It is on TikTok, and then yeah, Chopper Shit Show is what it is on there for parts.
Awesome, awesome, man. Thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on. Honestly,
yeah. Thanks for
really
having me.
appreciate it. That's cool.
Yeah.